All right, welcome. Good evening. Welcome to our monthly team Zoom. And we always do this the first Sunday of the new month. And hard to believe we're in the month of May. You know, the first Saturday of May, I'm fond of the fact they run the Kentucky Derby. Living in Louisville for a decade, that becomes part of your DNA there. And I know we got some Louisvillians on here and Southern Indiana folks. And so that was a big deal yesterday. And with that, we're going to start as we always do with our signature message. I'm part of a growing team of entrepreneurs with a shared mission to protect and empower 2 million families and small businesses with Legal Shield's network of law firms and world-class identity theft services. What we do matters, and we are looking for help. And Robert, I appreciate how you're mouthing that as I'm saying it. You knew every word of it, and that's it speaks to who we are and what we do. And so every month we do something a little bit different here. And tonight, what I thought we would do is something we haven't really done in a while as a focus, and it's a way to bring the mission of what we do front and center. I know I shared this on a call, but Robert's beloved Catherine, within weeks of her passing, I talked to her on the phone, and she shared with me, and she wanted this to be shared, that she had had a dream one night and just saw, heard, felt, knew how important it is people know about this service, because it saves people, it helps people, it protects people. And she had this urge and need to let me know to pass that on. And of course, that message has been consistent with what we've talked about for decades, but I just thought that was really powerful that she shared that. And so tonight, I want you all to go ahead and share stories. And I asked for membership stories, but also business or income stories. And when I say business, I'm talking about your business. And that could be anything from earning a trip, earning recognition, a best day of income, a best month, some special thing about the business, the income, some reward you've gained or gotten that you can share tonight. But let's do it in a way here that we can have some order. And let's start with membership stories. And I know I'm looking at the screen, I'm looking at the faces and names, and you all have so many of them. So I want to just open it up to you and also use this as coaching and tell the story in a way you might do it as a testimony. So again, the model for telling a story is, who are you and where are you? What happened that initiated the need for the lawyer or the identity theft? What happened? What did the attorney or the ID Shield person do? And then what was the outcome of that? So with that, who wants to kick it off with the member story?
John Ted Wilson, Louisville, Tennessee.
You're muted, Ted.
You're muted, Ted.
Can you hear me now? Okay. My roommate is a deaf and doesn't speak. Over-the-road trucker was involved in an accident. He backed into another trailer, and the person that owned the oh, can you hear me? Did I lose you?
We hear you.
We hear you.
Okay. He backed into a trailer, and the person who owned the truck that he was running for said, "We are not going to put this on his insurance, and Keith is going to have to pay for it." After 1 month, Keith had gotten the membership, talked to the attorney, and it's now taken care of. Keith does not have to pay, and the money he'd been paid was returned to him. Back to you.
Well, first of all, awesome story. And second of all, awesome job telling it. Here's what happened. And they got the attorneys involved. And as a result, he doesn't have to pay it. So wonderful. Okay, who's next? You don't need to raise your hand. We have a small enough group. Just unmute yourself and dive in there.
Jane Lehman, Bernie, Texas. My background was that of a professional musician and certified mediator. I began Legal Shield up in Michigan, and it was thanks to this company that when I moved from Michigan 1,500 miles down to Texas, I was sued by the woman who was buying my house because she quit her job. She didn't get a loan. We had no more contract, and she wanted her $5,000 back. I called our law firm when I got those papers in the mail, and they contacted the Michigan law firm. The beauty of Legal Shield is that we are a nationwide network. A lawyer was sent to court for me, even though I was still here in Texas. And that day, the lawyer called to tell me that I had won the case, or we had won the case. The woman still wanted to buy my house, but they told her to take a hike. And I knew that day that I will be with Legal Shield forever because I did nothing wrong, and they saved me over $10,000.
All right, powerful story. And, you know, a lot of things about that story are powerful. We've all sold and bought houses and have dealt with something like that in some way. We can certainly relate to it, but we also all have moved or traveled or can understand the importance of having access to an attorney in a state other than where we live. And that's why a story like that's powerful. Okay, who's next?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bridget Pocket Parker. Currently, I'm in Gaylord, Michigan, and my background is an ATM business owner. And when Ron and I got married 9 years ago, we knew that we could get a free will with our membership with Legal Shield, but we needed a trust, and we were bringing two families together. And I knew then that we had our 25% discount. Well, Ron says, babe, I'm just going to call David. He's our attorney that we work with here in Gaylord. And I said, okay, get a quote from him, please. So he quoted Ron right over the phone, no seeing of anything, $5,000. So he wrote $5,000. I said, let me call Powers and Chapman. They'll refer us to an attorney. Sure enough, we got an email from them. And our attorney was in Grayling, Michigan, which is only 25 miles up the road. Come to find out, Richard worked for Powers and Chapman for 22 years. And he said, what we'll do is I'll meet with you the first time, and then my secretary and I'll be sending you emails, because Ron had a lot of different collectible items. And you'll see that with a lot of 2 and 3 year time marriages. So anyways, what happened is we met again 2 weeks later, we met again. So we met 3 times, 65-page trust, ladies and gentlemen. Ron wrote him a check for $1,023. We'll be Legal Shield for life. Back to you, John.
All right, I love that story. And Bridget, I do want to ask, and that was a great story and you told it well. If you had to, could you tell that in 20 seconds, 30 max?
Probably 30, because I get carried away. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fact is you could. You just would leave things out.
Yeah.
However, that particular story has aspects to it that I think people can relate to. And as she was telling it, and those of you in Michigan might be able to answer this. Is Gene D'Agostino still working for the firm, or is he retired? Do you know?
I don't know.
Anyone? John, do you know? Carol?
I don't know.
Don't know.
Well, the firm is or was or did have the name D'Agostino. And when Lynn and I went to do our trust work when we still lived in Michigan, this was soon or not long before we moved to Kentucky. We wanted to get our trust work done. It turns out Gene D'Agostino was one of the best trust attorneys in Michigan, according to multiple sources. He did ours. His quote was $1,600, but we got the 25% discount, which is what you get for a trust. Our bill was $1,200, so about the same as what Bridget just shared there. And I just couldn't believe the value I was getting there. All right, who's next with the member story? Just
This
side
is-
mutant. Go ahead, Phyllis.
This is Phyllis Martins, Rapid City, South Dakota, IT professional. A friend of mine had made myself and another individual executors of his estate. We were both Legal Shield members. There was issues with what he had created for a will. They put me out to a referral attorney. I was able to talk to this referral attorney, resolve the issues, and also included with that referral was talking with my friend's son. We were able to resolve all the questions and get everything handled to close out the estate. Back to you.
Great, love it. And you know, that's a referral attorney story. And to be very transparent, most of you know this, many of our challenges over the years with the service has been with referral attorneys. And I will tell you, there were, so in my role as the NVP of different states and so on, I got to know the lead attorneys in Michigan and Kentucky and Indiana really well, and used to talk to them about what can we do to improve the referral attorney situation. Well, it turns out a lot of those challenges came from extremely rural areas of those states where they absolutely didn't have the attorney. And bear with me, I'm going to make Jane Lehman a co-host here. She's going to be able to help if we're picking up background noise. I should have done that earlier. Thanks, Jane.
Is my
That was really a
my
struggle.
wristband in the bed?
That was really a struggle for the attorneys to find, you know, in these rural places, because we wanted people who, we always say a good attorney really knows the law, a great attorney knows the judge. Well, we always wanted to be able to get attorneys that knew the judge in these markets. And it was, that was one of the biggest challenges in providing these services. Okay, Janae, I know you're not an associate here, but I know you've used the membership, so I saw your hand go up. So if you got a membership story, go ahead.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Drennan. This is Janae Holiday from New Albany, Indiana. My parents and I, we've used the membership, like Mr. Drennan said. We used it when I was in high school, and I was actually bullying someone else. And I was about to get handcuffed and put in the back of a cop car. We called my attorney. They handled it. They took care of it. We would never be without Legal Shield. Back to you, Mr. Drennan.
Well, and I remember that story. It was a number of years ago, but people were harassing you, and then it turned around where you kind of were defending yourself and almost got taken off. So yeah, I've talked to Janae's parents many times about the many ways they've used and benefited from this service. It's incredible. How about a couple more people? Share a membership story.
Linda Beck, Morris, Illinois. My background is mortgage banking. I have an Illinois member story. I live in Illinois and own the iPass transponder for local toll roads. For whatever reason, my balance got below zero on my account and had not been debited by the state, and due to a delay in their system. In the interim, I passed through some tolls, and which created an infraction. Almost a year had lapsed, and I received a notice and fine from the state of Illinois for toll road violations in the amount of $7,292.60. I was ready to lose it, but I contacted the law firm. They told me that I had two options. I could go through the long appeal process and take my chances, or they could coach me through what to say to the state and resolve it now. I wanted to put this at rest, so I took the attorney's coaching. I called the state and discussed the matter with the clerk. And while I was on hold, she calculated that my new debit was, or my new amount to be paid was $382.60. That's it.
All right, again, I love, it's a kind of story we can all relate to. And I think stories that we can all relate to are powerful. Stories of people that maybe it was a $200 issue, but they didn't want to call an attorney thinking it'd be $500. People can really relate to that. We all benefit from those kinds of scenarios. So I do want to ask, we've got more than half of you with your cameras on so we can see you. How many of you know a member who has used the 24/7 emergency service before? Show of hands. Okay. Most of us. It seems like if you're a veteran, you know you have a member that's done that. How many of you know a member who's gotten their will done? Okay, that looks like about everyone. How many of you know a member that's used an attorney out of state? Not counting the stories you heard tonight. Okay. How many of you know a member who's used and gotten value from a referral attorney? Okay, so almost everyone's yes to all these, and we just heard out of state. We heard use in the deaf community, referral attorneys, everyday service kinds of things, saving money on getting trust done. And so anybody else want to share a story before we move on?
John, Lee Perry, Evansville, Indiana. I want to share a story on behalf of one of my associates. It's part of the reason she became an associate. She is a small business owner in addition to being a Legal Shield associate, and she talked with someone to build her website and create her e-commerce, and they promised this much service for this much price. And then she started getting bills, and guess what happened? She was getting this much service for this much price. She called Legal Shield. They said, I don't know what we can do, but I'll write a letter. 2 days later, they got not only the service canceled and all her money back, but they saved her, we figure, about $4,800. She's Legal Shield for life and an associate. Back to you, John.
Awesome. Awesome. So a few more questions. How many of you know someone who's used this in dealing with a bankruptcy? Use Legal Shield. Okay. How many know someone who's used it in dealing with a tax audit? Many of you know Lynn Schuster Williams and her story. It's a great one. She was out shopping with her daughter while the attorney's dealing with the IRS auditor. How many know someone who used it as a result of a lawsuit where they were being sued? Okay. All right. So obviously, you know, we've experienced a lot of examples of our members or people we know using it, or us ourselves, for a lot of different things. So now I want to switch gears to stories that relate to the business. And I know this came up the other day when Annette, it was you talking about being sick for a couple days and still getting paid. And I think you said that. And then Lynn also talking about that. And I talked about that I've been on a partial sabbatical, in and out of sabbatical for 3.5 years, but just continue to get paid. It's because there's 2 reasons you can continue to be paid from this company. Number one, you've got residual income from members. Or number two, and number two, you've got team members still putting business in if you're not putting business in. So that's a double leverage scenario there. And so I'd love to hear stories that relate, again, to bonuses, income, trips, rewards, recognition, maybe that aha experience you had with the deposit, anything like that. Think back to any time that you got lit up as an associate from the business side. Let's hear some. Who wants to go first?
John Bradley, Novi, Michigan. Novi, Michigan. My background is in public safety communications, been an associate since December of 2001. Back in 2006 and 7, I had dipped my toe in the group arena and was able to receive a conservation group from the corporation. It was for a Head Start agency, an educational facility. Long story short, I was able to get back in with that account and schedule an enrollment. And I brought a couple of associates with me, and we had a red letter day and wound up writing about 48 apps and had a $6,000 day. I'm Legal Shield for life.
How'd that feel, John?
It was great. It was great. A lot of work because it was a room full of folks, but paper was rattling and pens were moving. So I was happy.
And here's the thing, John had a $6,000 day, and I don't know what day that was, but my guess is, and John is many people removed from me, and there are other executive directors between me and John, but my guess is that day I picked up probably $400 and didn't even know where it came from.
Right.
But that story causes me to remember this one. I remember waking up the first couple days of March, way back. This was maybe 17 years ago. And many of you know Allie Sanders, Millionaire Club member, 6-figure income earner, group, was group trainer of the year one year, a rock star on the group side. Well, I woke up I think it was March 2nd, might have been March 3rd, and I saw I had a deposit of about $7,000 more than what I would have expected. And it turned out Allie kicked off that month with a big group. And based on that group and where she was positioned in my business, I had a $7,000 override. That can happen here. And I didn't set up the group. I didn't go in and talk to the group. I didn't know who the group was. I didn't do anything except built the business.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing is a derivative of building the business. So thanks for kicking it off, John. Who's next?
This is Phyllis Martins, Rapid City, South Dakota, IT professional. A couple years ago, I had some significant health issues and was not doing anything with the Legal Shield aspect of my business. And I was collecting a residual income deposited every month into my account. And I was doing little to nothing other than recovering. Back to you.
That's so powerful. So thanks for sharing that. So many people have had that experience at some level. Okay, who's next?
Bridget Paquette Parker from Gaylord, Michigan. My background is an ATM business owner. And after my third knee surgery of 6, I was in the hospital. I was getting my port in my arm. My husband walked in the door. He said, "Babe, where's that $395 in our PNC coming from?" And I says, "That's the residual income that I get for having memberships on the book." He goes, "Honey, you got to get better and get out there and get back to work." Back to you, John.
I love it. What a great story. And Bridget, tell me, I don't remember back, were you around in the business when our teams did the event at Crystal Mountain?
No, sir.
Okay. I know Bridget works with Don Wilson, and our team had an event up at Crystal Mountain, which is a beautiful resort area in northern Michigan, and just had an absolutely incredible weekend there. John Bradley or Ted Wilson, were either of you at that event?
Well, you know what? I think I was, John, at Crystal Mountain. Now that Jim was there, Jim and Jackie, right?
Jim,
it was his,
for sure.
yeah, I think it was his birthday. Yeah.
Okay.
Was that Crystal Mountain or was that, no, I'm thinking of Glen Woods or,
Yeah, no, Crystal Mountain was quite a while back. Well,
Yeah.
2005, maybe 2000.
But I spent my last $10 before I got my commission check coming in. Bob Renwick said, "You meet me in Grand Rapids because John Drennan's going to be speaking there and you need to hear him." And I said, I have only $10 to put in my gas. He said, you get there, I'll pay your way in. And I'll never forget this. And he says, and I'll even take you to Applebee's with the gang. And I had the best time of my life. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun, Bob. What a great guy. Well, I brought up the Crystal Mountain because, again, that was the kind of thing people will share. Some of you might share from Wooded Glen or what we did in French Lick, but Crystal Mountain was a resort where we just had an absolutely incredible team weekend with Don Wilson's team and others. So anyhow, let's keep going.
John and Darcy Hoffman, we got to get to the island, Mackinac Island. And Tony Petrell and Don Wilson and all of them, they all want to go there too. So that's in the making in the next probably 3 years or so.
All right. Well, I'd be all for that. All right. Who's next? Business, income, rewards.
Linda Beck,
Ted-
Morris, Illinois.
Go Linda and then Ted.
Well, before this year, I was not paying close attention to what was coming in from overrides because we have several associates, but not all active. And I'm sure we've received some, but this year I had a new associate sign up, and her first member, he signed up for a business plan, the ID Shield, the personal plan. And when I saw $480 in my bank account, I just couldn't believe that it was all from that. But it was an exciting thing to see.
Awesome. I love residual and override stories because you don't get residuals and overrides at corporate America. Okay, Ted Wilson, you're next.
Yes, I am affiliated with a group called Spalding for Children because I've adopted a child from there. So I went in and presented to 31 people, and I was fired up. 28 of them signed up at that time, and I still have 3 that are still members, and that was 2001 or 2002. Back to you.
Awesome. And Ted, what year did you get your membership?
2099.
1999, right?
1999, yes.
Okay.
February 12th.
And you got it from Jim Harkema, who got his in 1998.
Yes.
Well, that's 2 memberships right there. I know I've been paid on for at least 24 years. John Bradley, you got started in 2021. I know I've been getting paid for 22 years.
2001.
I'm sorry, I said 21. Yeah, 2001. So John, do you still have members from 2001 or 2002 on the books?
A couple, yeah.
So John's gotten paid over 20 years.
Yeah.
Jane, what year did you get started?
2008.
Do you have members from 2008 or 9?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so 15 years. By the way, Jane got her membership from Wilma, who's gotten paid since 2008.
Mhm.
Lee Perry, when did you start?
June 2015.
2015. Do you have members from 2015?
Oh, yeah.
That's coming up on a decade. I mean, that's 8 years of being paid on members. And that also means, and again, I'm making a point, by staying the course, I've gotten paid for 8 years on Lee's membership. A residual amount. I don't know how much that is. I don't go look at that. It's something. Annette, what year did you get started?
December 2013.
2013. Do you have members from back in those early days still on the book?
Yes.
So that's a decade of membership fees. And so it's real. Anybody else want to share a membership or reward story?
I have a story. Annette Zobar, Gulfport, Mississippi background, QuickBooks consulting. Almost 2 years ago, we moved from Illinois down to Mississippi. And the first year it was tough. I was really I had been consistently hitting PC Pro. Now I was struggling just to make PC, and I sold a lot fewer memberships. But when I figured out how much money I had made, it was almost the same within like under $100 from the year before because of team overrides, which were very few because I don't have a big team, but mostly from residual income because I have members on the books from the very beginning when I started. Back to you.
Yeah, there you go. That's awesome. And thanks for sharing that data. You know, as I'm looking here, Annette mentioned she moved, so she's got a lot of members in Illinois and now building a base of members in Mississippi. Jane Lehman, a lot of members in Michigan before moving to Texas, and now she's well known as an associate in Texas. Bridget spends her winters in Alabama, so she's got a lot of members in Michigan and a lot in Alabama. Ted, we hear him a lot talk about what he's got going in Tennessee, but he started his business many years in Michigan. In my case, I've left a trail of members in Michigan and Kentucky, and now less so in New Hampshire, but got members in New England. And so what's my point? Well, wherever you go, you can establish memberships here. So there's so much leverage.
John, a story that I had forgotten all about till you started mentioning that. I got a membership and an associateship, and I was flying out to California to see my aunt and uncle, and I contacted a guy from Detroit on the plane. When I got back from California, I called him, he signed up, and he is still on the books.
Absolutely, yeah. How many of you have ever picked up some kind of business while traveling? Membership, associate, you personally? Okay, 4 of us. That is not uncommon. 5 of us. That is not uncommon. Ken, you just came on with your camera. Were you raising your hand or adding something? You're muted, but I think you picked up business while traveling.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, we're going to go ahead and wrap up here.
Hey, Mr. Drennan, real quick, I just want to tell an aha moment that I had with Legal Shield. My aha moment was, I remember the first convention that we had, and I just remember seeing thousands, like I've seen all of you guys just sitting like around taking notes and taking pages of notes. I remember one of the people on the stage saying, if this is your very first convention, stand up. And I remember standing up and just looking around and seeing other people that were standing up, and it was their first time. And I remember meeting all of you guys. And I just want to say thank you guys, because you guys have just been such a wonderful family to me and my parents and everything. So back to you, Mr. Drennan.
All right, and I think everybody here can remember the first time they went to an event, and we always get asked if your first time stand up, and I certainly remember that as well. So, all right, well, we went a couple minutes over. I want you to watch this video we're going to close with. It's about 3 minutes, and the individual, his name is Jason Dorsey. If you know that name, put your hand up. Okay, and I was just introduced to him recently. He's a global expert on generational studies. What's the difference between Gen Z and millennials and baby boomers? And so I'm going to play a short clip. You can then go pursue more YouTube clips. And I have actually suggested to Legal Shield they bring him in for a convention, because I'm a baby boomer. I need help in knowing how to communicate with Gen Z. And that's true, but because every generation is different. He says, if you want to know who the baby boomers are in the room, just see if they got a watch on. Millennials and Gen Z aren't going to have watches. So anyhow, with that, we'll close with this short video. Bear with me while I switch over. I need to do that again because I forgot a button. Okay, there I almost ended the meeting, so hold on, folks.
Speaking of boomers.
Yeah, right, exactly. This is a great lead in to this. Here we go.
Of you have had a conversation with someone of a different age, and it was very, very, very important. And at the end of the conversation, you knew when they walked away, they had no idea what you just told them. Raise your hand. So what do you do when this happens? Oh, I know. I know what a lot of you in here do. You take out that fancy pen right there. Yes, sir. And you write us a note. In cursive. We can't read cursive. So we send you a text. And you spend the next 2 weeks trying to get the little envelope off your phone. It's going to be a challenge. I can promise you that. And it's also going to be an unprecedented opportunity. Truly a once-in-a-generation opportunity, depending entirely how you choose to adapt. At our center, we're called the Center for Generational Kinetics. I mean, this is what we do. We study this stuff. We're passionate about it. And then we apply it to different industries. And because we work across industries, we get to see what works best and then bring it to new industries. Really cool stuff. So as you think about this, what we discovered is that my generation is actually breaking in two. It's called a dislocation. What it means is you got a big generation, 79.8 million in the US, most diverse generation in US history, more college degrees than any previous generation. And what you're ending up with are two groups. One group that really kind of has their act together. They went to school, maybe they didn't, they got a job, but they're taking responsibility for their actions. They're doing the best they can, they're making it work. And there's a lot of this group in this room. And then you've got a whole other segment of the generation that isn't creating what we call real world traction. They're not creating those outcomes and owning them. And as the generation starts to split around the age of 30, you put yourself in one group or the other, and you can't identify with the other group. It doesn't make sense. So it starts to break apart. It has huge implications. When we talk about generations, they're not a box that all of you in here, including myself, will fit neatly inside based on your birth year. It doesn't work that way. You actually can end up turning people off. But what generations absolutely are is they're powerful clues, really powerful clues on where to start to better connect with and influence other people of different ages. It's true whether the people are older or whether they're younger.
Cool.
Okay, so again, if you want to learn more, you can go to YouTube, put in Jason Dorsey, and I wanted to show that because I think what he's talking about is valuable. And I know we got a lot of baby boomers here, and we got to understand we're now the small group compared to the millennials and Gen Z, and we need to understand how to relate. So with that, thanks for being on. Tomorrow morning, we'll have our morning stretch call, 8 a.m. Eastern. Everyone have a great rest of your night. Take
Bye,
care.
guys.
Thanks for everyone that contributed.
Night, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you
so much.
See you tomorrow, Jim.